Let's dive into it. Okay, I wanted to do a refresher over Inan just because I know that I've done a video on Inan in the past, but it's kind of like way back now and like lost. So a lot of the new followers don't know anything about Inan or know anything about his really weird Reddit post that he wrote, mainly involving Kaylee. So I wanted to kind of touch back on that. I haven't seen an interview with Inan in any of the documents that have been released, which I find to be absolutely wild because this person lived within walking distance and could literally look into the backyard of the King Road house. He is also someone that was kind of a vagabond. He had been homeless. He had drug issues. He was possibly dabbling in dealing substances. He was a prep line cook. So if that tells you anything, but there's pictures of him with stacks and stacks of money. So that's very odd. He made very, very strange references about Papa Roger. He made very strange references about the white Elantra. He is just odd. And the things that he was talking about knives in depth. He was talking about how sharp knives can be, what knives he prefers. It was just a very odd thing. He lived in the apartments that were apparently considered the Harlem of Moscow and or Moscow. I always mispronounce it. Well, so he lived in those apartments and he had a horrible record, horrible back history. So I would have had a huge problem knowing that this apartment complex that was so close to student housing was allowing people to live this close to college students. That's just my own personal opinion. Everybody deserves a chance, but I don't know that they deserve that chance like right in the mix of a college town. It just seems a bit odd that he even wrote any of this. So let's get into it. Okay, so it says, hello, my name is Inan Harsh or Chef Dizzy. Now I want to pause really quick because if you look up Chef Dizzy on Instagram, social media, etc., there's a lot of stuff associated with Papa Roger. There's a lot of stuff associated with the Golden Doodle. It's very strange that he kind of linked all of these things that pertained to this case into his own world. It's very bizarre. Reference here. Chef Dizzy. Do you see the profile picture? Love trap and drill music, yay area, chef extraordinaire, free spirit. He is also saying that he's located in Haight-Ashbury, San Francisco. He did go to California, I believe, San Francisco, because he was taking pictures of white Elantras and making really weird posts about them. But then here is this tweet by Chef Dizzy, love my pup. This dog just very much resembles Murphy. It's very strange. It's been a wild few days and it seems there's a lot of news, misinformation, conspiracies, and a lot going on about my existence right now. I'm sure many of you are curious about who I am and how I got here. I haven't had a very average life, and I'm sure a lot of people, my beliefs, lifestyle, and actions many will judge and consider immoral. But the truth is I have a dream, a story, and a perspective I'd like to share for whoever it may touch and help. I believe in 5 things: peace, harmony, freedom, love, and happiness. I truly believe that this is something human existence can reach, but unfortunately greed and corruption has pulled us far away from that dream, and the consequences of such has impacted individuals across the globe daily. But first, I would like to send out love and empathy for the family of the victims, unheard of in this town and absolutely horrendous. I can't say I have ever lost a family member, but in many parts of my life, I had to grow or survive in harsh environments. And I have lost several close friends, and some I consider family. Many others are missing or probably never seen again. At many points in my life, I was on my way to be one of them. Meditating on the unalivings and the suffering brings me to tears sometimes daily. One day, returning from work, I brought my neighbors some wine when they were having a small fire party outside just to meet them. The neighbors are the people that live at King Road. Although it was a short visit, I remember how beautiful, friendly, kind, and joyful they were. So happy it instantly brightened up my day. I remember going inside and having an inspired, long, and sick flow before stretching and drilling. Kaylee were the neighbors you wanted to... Kaylee. He mentions a lot of Kaylee. Kaylee were the neighbors you wanted on Greek Row. Partying is expected. To imagine someone wanting to hurt them is beyond disbelief and so sick. Several days ago, when I thought I was over the sadness of losing those who only brought positive thoughts to me, he did not know these people. When I went to check my mail, I saw the posting of their faces and started crying. I was listening to Fallen Soldiers by Cormega, Wu-Tang represent, and starting thing not only of the recent unalivings, but all the friends I lost, and continued crying for hours. I went to work 3 hours later, tears still pouring from my face, trying to stay calm for my work duties. I could barely talk, and our grill cook could tell something was up, but I didn't know how to verbalize the feeling of losing a friend almost every year, a feeling where you can't focus on anything but the suffering of losing a loved one. Let's see here, of losing a loved one. The energy burning you in like a fire causing cuts. I'm mainly a prep cook. To be lightning speed but sloppy. I remember almost cutting myself using the anger, sadness, and other emotions to the energy burning you in like a fire causing cuts. I'm mainly a prep. Okay, oh, sorry, I've already read that part. I remember almost cutting myself using the anger, sadness, and other emotions to propel my movements. Remembering the kindness of those now gone, in this case, who had such a bright, happy, and free future. Kaylee, Xana, and her boyfriend, those are the only 3 I remember, but I know all were amazing, were real-ass human beings. To lose them is such an incredible loss. Lose, he misspelled that. I hope the family members find comfort in grief and heal fully with time, positive prayers and thoughts, and encourage them to try and spend their time on whatever activity brings them joy and or comfort, and from my hippie roots to try and spend time with nature as it heals all wounds. Well, I don't normally support police. I understand them and do think there are some really well-intentioned and good ones in the force, as I have met a few. And in this case, I do support the homicide department and hope the perpetrator is found and justice is served. While I believe in freedom, there is a line you do not cross, and once you cross that line, it is time to move on to the next physical existence. I hope the family members and close relatives can find peace no matter what the outcome becomes. I have faced many near-death experiences. I have lived a reckless life, especially in my youth. I have pretty much whatever I want. I have pretty much whatever I want my entire life. At the same time, I've always believed in compassion, morality, amnesia, I don't know what that is, amisma, and being the best version of yourself. I have a lot of struggles with insecurities, incredibly naive and optimistic, and extremely different and lots of times misunderstood. Sometimes when I think about those I lost, I ask myself, why not me? But I know that's stupid, and while I'm not really religious, I do believe in purpose and destiny. Being here and free and alive today despite many odds. I truly believe I have something to offer to the world, and looking at what's happening globally, and it brings me to tears to see how much suffering sentient beings are chronically experiencing. I have a story to share, and I think it's one that can touch people in meaningful ways and raise awareness of a lot of problems in the world that many people do not see. Hopefully, this will reach out to those who can use or just curious about it and make positive, meaningful changes in this world. But before we go further, I'd like to share a meditation I personally have found very powerful in my healing process. This is like a whole meditation manifesto now that he writes about, so we're gonna skip through. Okay, so this whole part is like his weird meditation, like breathe in. So if you guys would like to read that, you're more than welcome to pause. I'm not going to read it. So it says, let's see here. A lot of information and misinformation has been dug up about me, and a lot of false media as well. The initial media came from a dope fiend butthurt, and I'd like to share my version and set the record straight. It said my car was used in a robbery. My car was in a effing mechanic shop at the time. 12 years ago, I was charged with second-degree robbery with a stolen firearm, felony possession of mushrooms, MDMA, meth, and opiates, I think. All charges were dropped, rightfully so, and I went to prison for possession with intent to deliver of MDMA. I'd like to share what happened and how I got there. Okay, I'm going to pause this video, and then I'm going to throw up the screenshots of the rest of his story, so if you guys want to read it. I'm not going to read through all of it because he makes this whole post like I don't even begin to know what this is, like a biography. Is this about the victims? It's very strange. So we'll go on to a part 2. I'll post up the rest of the screenshots, and then we'll dive back into when he starts talking about the night of the crime. Let's dive into it. Okay, I'm going to toss up these screenshots, like I said, so you guys can read these if you want to read just like all about everything that he's going on and on and on about. And then I'm going to finish off the video with the rest of what he says about what happened at the King Road house. So here's the next one. Here is the next one. Here's his next one. It's a lot. And you can see like all of the drug involvement. There's a lot of it. And I have a feeling that he didn't stop because typically prep line cooks don't bring home stacks and stacks of cash. Here's the next one. Here's the next one. And this one, he just keeps talking about how he OD'd and all of this other stuff. It's wild. Okay, and then this part he's gonna finish up and then we're gonna continue down here, okay? So it says, on the night of the unaliving, I'm sure there's some discrepancies. First, I got home a little late because I was talking to one of my coworkers after work. When I went home, it was pretty normal. I made some tea, did some drills, and I think played a game of LOL. I don't know what that is. I went to bed and heard nothing out of the ordinary. When the cop knocked on my door the next day and asked if I heard anything, I was like, no, nothing unusual. I didn't know there was a murder, so small details like a faint scream in the distance and one of my neighbors getting home, closing their car door, closing their front door, etc. were not on my mind. I noticed I was quoted as heard a screaming. This is not true. I heard a scream, faint and party-like, to my half-asleep eyes. Well, we don't hear things with our eyes. To be clear, there's probably at least 5 screams every Saturday. Even on dead nights, you'll probably hear at least someone making loud sounds at some point. Small detail, but in this situation, I think screaming and a scream are very different. And small details matter like this with all the internet sleuth and conspirators around. That's really all he says about it. And then he starts talking about stick juggling. Well, okay. And he gives his Instagram, and you guys can look it up. It's still public, or it was a few weeks ago, like a month ago. I apologize for the rough editing on the second half. I've been up writing this for several hours, and I will try to update more later. It's just strange. It's strange the way it's written. It's strange. Is this about the victims? Is this about him? This is his biography. Again, it's very odd, and I am a bit like, where's his interview? Where is his interview? So the cops knocked on his door, and he said, I might have heard a scream with my half open eyes. And then the cop said, okay, good day, sir. Catch you later. There's also this. Thank you for clarifying, as comments were locked on your AMA. I hope you don't mind if I ask a couple questions here, and hope you take these in the spirit of Ask Me Anything. When you took your neighbors the wine after work at their fire pit party, did you stay and socialize? If yes, how many people were there and what types of people? When roughly was that party? Did you have any other interactions with the girls after that? Did you have any sort of social relationship with previous residents of that house? Have you ever been inside the house? Did you drive from Pullman that night? Do you usually park in the lot at the top of the hill behind the house? Not past introduction. My passion for cooking often leaves me with a partly used bottles of wine that will go bad long before I use them, as I rarely drink. This one particular high quality, and I didn't want to go to waste. And since they were there and I was already outside, I decided I should give it to them, mostly just to get rid of it and not see it go to waste. But also, my neighbors seemed really cool and I wanted to meet them. I think it's good to know your neighbors a bit, and they can be useful if you find them trusting for things like when you go on vacation. The last neighbors at the place I lived, I was very fortunate to have. They were social, unlike me, and apparently there was a tweaker dude there before me, and some whacked dude came in the middle of the night when I wasn't home, banging on my door, asking for a name neither of us knew till my neighbor got him to leave. So knowing your neighbors, I feel, is a good way to feel safe. If there are flags, obviously avoid. These are also college students, and he is in no way, shape, or form a college student or college aged. So I'm confused at how he would feel safe with his female college neighbors. I don't really party, and I don't socialize much. As tempting as their parties were sometimes in this stage of my life, I'm usually pretty occupied with my own agenda and interests. Sometimes I thought about asking if I could use their lawn as a place to spin fire, but I usually just did it in the parking lot above. Okay, and then no previous relationships. Although I picked up some hitchhiker from Coeur d'Alene who were going to a neighbor's house party. The girl and I were flirting a bit, but the dude kept mentioning people knew where they were if I was trying to unalive them. I was like, what the fuck? But after the stabbing, I wondered if they had a sketchy experience with someone around the area. I have never been inside the house. I did drive from Pullman that night. I parked as close to the apartment door as possible, so no, unless there's a big party. And sorry, I can't see that. The blank lot with the randos. I know we have one neighbor who starts some commotions with parking and whatever, but the Karen type. Wait, hold on. What does this say? And whatever, but blank the Karen type, and I stab people I don't like. What? Oh, sorry. That says that person is more the Karen type and not the I stab people I don't like type, which is also a very strange thing to say. So why would you reference this? Why would you reference this? That's really weird. This also appears to be him. I did some research, and this eye data when you sleep is also his profile. And he says, this person says he does. This is on Reddit. This person says he does have a criminal history and works with knives. Just saying. And this eye data when I sleep, which is Inan. I also love to talk about knives. Ask me anything. My favorite are long blue number 2 high carbon Kiritsukis. I like heavy but thin knives. Great for vertical cuts. Great for vertical cuts. Terrible for stabbing, I would imagine. Although if you looked at some of the recent Dale Strong Gladiator series knives. ... LOL. What? Again, what? These are the knives that he's talking about. These crazy, like, Kiritsuki, whatever they're called, knives. Oh, there it is. Kiritsuki knives. Then this person is talking about all of this, like, detailed stuff. If they had a car, I think parking on the hill to the right of King Street, as there were no cameras there. Also, how does he know all of this information? I know of at the time, or on King Street. Then walk up King, take a left, and then there's a parking lot, and on the right side area that's kind of dark and not used much except on party nights. Down that hill is an entrance to the yard and sliding door of Kaylee. This person has way too much information of how this house operates for someone that's never even been over there. So I think through that door out of that same door to avoid unusual sounds, then through the yard to the side hill or King Street to your car and driving out. If they were walking, I would think same door, but there's access to street on a steep hill above the parking lot. So I could see that as a possible escape route to avoid detection. But while Moscow parties, its activity at this time of most nights is pretty dismal. I've thought about this a lot, and no, everything here is pretty much has their own life. Everyone here pretty much has their own life going on. I also can't imagine Kaylee doing anything that would drive someone to stab them. At the same time, the Christ Church are suspicious, and he goes on about the Christ Church, but also he refers to the whole entire house as Kaylee. It's very strange. Now here is Chef Dizzy. Here we go. We have been misled and want to clear things up. Papa Roger was not Ellie, as previously said. We have 100% confirmed the identity of Papa Roger, and it is no other than the Canna Knitter, who also goes by moniker Papworth Rodriguez on their Facebook. IP addresses match. Please see above. We have resolved the Papa Roger mystery for you. Further deep dive of metadata from profile pictures exposed Canna Knitter Papworth Rodriguez not only using the same IP address, but device with the same MAC address. So again, this is very interesting information. This is something like, how do you have all this information? How did you know exactly the route that someone would go to commit this crime? Where they would park, where they would stand, what door they would enter, where they would exit, how they would get away. It's just very weird that someone that lived so close to this house is writing things like this. Very strange. And then I guess we just knocked on the door and said, did you do it? And he said no, and we said, okay.